Super PR. Super PR helped to launch a campaign on the budgets. Please give a round of applause for the one and only Jaylen Christie. Here we go.
Good evening, everyone. Let's try this one more time. Good evening, everyone. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I don't really operate well with low energy. I'm a high energy individual. It is my esteemed pleasure, my honor, my gratitude, all of the things to be with you all today. As my friend Martisha indicated earlier, my topic is super PR on a budget. Right. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful graphic, if I do say so myself. I illustrated it. All right. Pop quiz. Who can tell me, or rather, who can name 10 black superheroes? You got it? Go ahead. Hang on. Just bring you the microphone. Do what you do. Blank man and meteor man do not count. Blank man and meteor man do not count.
So, Black Panther, okay, we have Black Lightning, Static Shock, you also have, people say,
You got this.
Miles Morales,
Okay. All right.
Brown Hornet, okay, Brown, how many is that? 5, Brown Hornet, Wonder Woman sister, I can't think of her name, Nubia,
Julia.
okay,
Julia.
Batwoman,
Batwoman counts.
Batwoman, okay.
On television.
7, alright, 2. We also have Storm,
Storm.
okay, 8, right, 8, 9, that's 9. Okay, our last one is going to be, give me 1 second. What happened before? Oh,
Let's go with Green Lantern John Stewart.
yes.
A round of applause for this gentleman. All right, one more question before we dive in. All right, so this gentleman successfully and effectively named 10 black superheroes. Who can tell me who the first black superhero is? You already win. Who can tell me who the first black superhero is? You got someone in the back, aren't you sure?
You got it.
Are we talking about like comic book or a movie?
This man is smart, but it was a trick question. It was a trick question. Let's go with comic books.
I don't know that one.
It's okay. It's all right. Who do you feel it is?
Blade.
It's incorrect. But it was a noble guess, though. It was a noble guess. But check this out. Check this out. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. I got a sticker for you. All right? All right, I got a sticker for you. Round of applause for the gentleman in the back. All right, most individuals believe that it is Black Panther. Most people think that Black Panther was the first black superhero, introduced in the 1960s within the pages of Fantastic Four, the movie that is set to come out, produced by Marvel in the next 3 weeks. But in actuality, the first black superhero was Lion Man, produced by All Negro Comics in the 1940s. This is a comic that was created by African American creators, writers, and illustrators because there was a lack of diversity during that particular time period, and this publication was administered and distributed within the black community. So having said that, let's dive in, all right? Good segue. As a child growing up in the 1990s, as I indicated earlier, there was a lack of diversity within comic books. When I was a kid, all I had was Zach Taylor, the Black Ranger, during Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which only lasted 1 season and half a season before he was unceremoniously written off and replaced by Adam, who, by the way, was a worthy replacement, but I grew up on Zach. Storm, as indicated earlier, was a member of the X-Men, but aside from Storm, Zach, and Kwame and Captain Planet, that was the only representation representation that I had. So as a child, I took it upon myself to create my own comic books. I did it for fun, not knowing one day that I would eventually publish them, but I created my own comic book characters, turned them into homemade publications, and then gave them to friends on the playground, all right? Stinkball Man and the Brain Kids is a creation of mine that I invented within the first grade, or rather during the first grade, all right? I was blessed to publish this during Black History Month 2023. The Brain Kids, Jesse McBrilliant and Brittany McBrilliant. Two individuals that don't have traditional superpowers, but instead save the day using science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Their father has gone missing under mysterious circumstances, and all signs point to Nicodemus Graves, the billionaire industrialist CEO of Graveport Technologies, whom the public thinks is up to a bunch of positive things. There's actually got a few nefarious schemes behind the scenes. Now, keeping Princeton Bay safe is no easy feat. Thank God that the Brain Kids have Stinkball Man, a superpowered alien from the planet Stinkopolis, who happens to be an intergalactic peacekeeper. Now, Stinkball Man does not use his hands, does not use his fists, he doesn't believe in violence. So how does he defuse the situation? He uses stink bombs. Stink bombs is what he uses to subdue the villains. Now, Stinkball and the Brain Kids work together to save the fictional city of Princeton Bay. And obviously, this is a passion project of mine that I've been carrying around with me since the first grade. Given the events of 2020, which we just labeled as COVID and corruption, I felt that it was high time for these characters to be introduced. But how does one do that without having an effective public relations strategy? Now, publications such as DC or Marvel or Dark Horse typically have a communications department. All right, there's a public relations team that they have in place to get these comic books, these graphic novels on bookshelves so that individuals know to purchase them. That same concept in theory applies to motion pictures as well. As I indicated before, Fantastic Four comes out in a few weeks, and Superman is coming out in a few weeks as well. I'm looking forward to them both. Now, having said that, in order for me to get this publication on the shelf, and for people to learn about it, I had to utilize a public relations strategy. And in doing so, I had to identify trends, I had to identify relevant observances, and figure out who my target audience would be. Luckily, I was able to latch on to Black History Month, all right? With this being a publication featuring predominantly Black characters, I figured Black History Month would be the trend that I would utilize to get the word out about it, all right? And as you can see, God is good. I was able to attract media attention across the spectrum, whether that be broadcast, radio, podcast, or print, all right? I had a very good February in 2023 getting the word out about my comic book. But what I learned about that is that I can do it when a budget is zero. Surely you all as creatives can do the very same thing. So let's dive into what that strategy could look like for you. Governor Brenda Sally, which is one of the supporting characters in my comic book, lives in the city of Princeton Bay. She has been looking for love in all the wrong places, but in all the right designer hills. Now, when it comes to Governor Brenda, she knows a thing or two about a hook, all right? Governor Brenda's quote is, "Be heroic. Find that hook." What is a hook specifically? A hook is an angle, all right? Having a strong media angle is crucial because it helps make a story more engaging, relevant, and memorable for journalists and the public. It provides a clear perspective or hook that captures attention, encourages reading and sharing, and distinguishes a story from a similar one. All right, now as I indicated at the start of my presentation, the hook for me, the angle that I need to latch onto, was a lack of Black superheroes, which we discussed previously. All right, now the original strategy for me was to release my comic book during the Christmas season. We'll dive into why that might not have been the best strategy, all right? But my angle was, okay, Black superheroes, Black representation, Black History Month is coming up. I know that the media, more than likely, 9 times out of 10, will probably be looking for stories that deal with diversity, equity, and inclusion during Black History Month. The same thing it's January, media is typically looking for those feel-good stories about New Year's resolutions or how to get in shape, stick to a diet before March and things of that nature. So that angle is what I utilize for my comic book. And as you can see with all the photos and images from the different TV stations and media that I was featured in, it seemed to work. So if you're putting together your own strategy for your own respective business, or whatever it is that you may be working on, instead of guessing as you go along, it pays to have that strategy in front of you. Now that could be a quarterly strategy, it could be a yearly strategy, all right? But having that strategy and identifying maybe 8 to 10 angles that you can work when it comes to going after members of the media, reporters, producers, or journalists, or things of that nature will work, okay? Jesse McBride, one half of the superhero duo known as the Brain Kids. Look at that smile. That is the kind of smile that a woman would mortgage a house for, all right? Now, Jesse knows a thing or two about doing your research. His saying, save the day, do your research. When it comes to doing research in the public relations field, we utilize a strategy known as RPI: research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. All right? Research is vital for advancing knowledge, fostering learning, and making informed decisions. Okay? So in order for you to get the word out about your respective product or your business or your organization, it is imperative to know who your target audience is. All right? So that's A. All right? So do research on your target audience. Now, what I will tell you is when it comes to different demographics, their interests are all different. Statistically speaking, we know that older individuals still get their news utilizing or reading the newspaper. Therefore, if your target audience is an older demographic, you want to land in a print publication, whereas younger individuals tend to listen to podcasts. So if your target audience is younger individuals, then you need to compile a list of podcasts. Now, in the public relations world, most public relations agencies utilize software known as Cision or Meltwater, which is a database of endless reporters and producers. But since we are operating on a budget of zero, that is where search engines such as Google come in. Now that might mean that it may take you an extra 2 or 3 hours, but if you are diligent, and if you are like me and want to make money, you will not find an issue spending that amount of time doing your rudimentary Google search regarding which reporters and producers it is that you need to go after. All right? So start with research first. That way you know who it is that you're trying to target, and you know what it is that you're trying to convey to that respective publication or that audience. Thank you. All right, Stinkball Man himself, the central protagonist in Stinkball Man in the comic book. Stinkball Man in the Brain Kids, rather. Stinkball Man's quote, "Evildoers beware. Get that PR strategy together, fam." All right, as I indicated earlier, having a strategy is important. Next slide, please, sir. Having a strategy is crucial because it provides direction, focus, and a roadmap for achieving goals. So we said that we are not going to guess. We are going to develop a strategy, and we are going to work that strategy. Now, what does that strategy entail? It could be your objectives. It could be your goals. It could be your tactics, okay? What does that look like specifically? One thing that I realize is when it comes to reporters, especially those that work for magazines, there is an editorial calendar that they utilize. Some of these publications, some of these magazines, categorically speaking, have their editorial calendars listed on their website. And if they do not have them listed on their website, most people, for whatever reason, don't ever think about emailing the editor-in-chief or the managing editor or their content team to request the editorial calendar. What is an editorial calendar, Jaylen? I am so glad you asked. Publications such as Essence, Ebony, Jet, Black Enterprise, Entertainment Weekly, People, Cosmopolitan, all operate off of an editorial calendar. They are not making up the topics as those issues come out. Their team has met in advance to map out all of 2025 and all of 2026, okay? So, print reporters. Let's focus on newspapers specifically. Newspapers move fast. Newspapers come out every single day. Magazines, most magazines, on the other hand, come out monthly. Magazine reporters are working on their stories in advance. So it is currently June going on July. I can almost guarantee you that they are already working on their August or September issue. If you have a business or organization, let's say that you own your own restaurant, let's say that you own your own beauty care product, all right? If you own your own restaurant, you're going to go after publications that obviously write about food, all right? Don't think that just because you don't have a story, you can't go to the reporter. You can always ask them out for coffee and see what it is that they're working on. And then if you don't have anything at that moment, you can keep it in the back of your head, and when the opportunity presents itself, you can go after that reporter. So you're cultivating that relationship. Next slide, please. Cranium, the brain kid's dog. All right. Cranium says, to the rescue, baby. Utilize relevant observances. Next slide. So, having that editorial calendar is one piece of the puzzle. That's one way in which you can land on a reporter's radar, all right? Another way in which you can develop content for yourself is utilizing relevant observances. I have a client that I work with. They are a group of nutritionists and dietitians, all right? Did you know that July is National Hot Dog Month? July also is National Blueberry Month. The first week of July is Sweetness Week. That is how I am able to generate topics and stories for this particular client, all right? So a Google search of what is July known for, what is August known for, and seeing how you can relate your brand or your organization to that, and then going to the reporter and then saying, oh, okay, I know that you cover this particular beat. If you're a technology reporter, let's say that September is National Virus Prevention Month. Chances are you may be working on this story. I work in technology. Here's me reaching out to you saying that I could be a source for a potential story that you're working on, all right? So that's how that works. Latching on to trends in public relations is crucial for gaining quick recognition, driving engagement, and potentially influencing long-term behavior. If a reporter works with you once and you come through for him or her, chances are they will continue to come to you again because you've now proven yourself to be a reliable source. Sometimes, instead of you going to them, they may come to you and say, you helped me out this first time, do you have anything else for me? You know, I'm working on this story, do you have a source? Maybe you're not the source specifically, but maybe you know of someone that could be of value to that reporter. That just goes a long way in fostering those healthy relationships. And like I said earlier, knowing your target audience, it doesn't necessarily have to be a newspaper. If your target audience is a podcast, you can go after podcasters as well, all right? Next slide, please, sir. Thank you. Grandpa Bo, Dr. Beaumont McBrilliant. Truth, justice, and using your skills to fund your creativity. So let me dive into this really quick, all right? Because we are operating off of a budget of 0, okay? So it is what it is. Get out there and hustle. What do I mean by that? I had no money when my comic book came out, all right? I illustrated it, I wrote it, but I didn't color it. That means I had to hire a colorist, all right? When it comes to comic books have what is called a letterer. A letterer is when you're looking at those panels, those beautiful pages, there are word bubbles coming from the mouths of those characters, of those individuals. I had to hire a letterer, all right? I'm trying to stay on a budget of 0, all right? So putting together my public relations strategy, if I'm not paying someone to put together my strategy, this now means that I have to get funds from somewhere to pay a colorist and a letterer. So what I mean by utilizing your skills, I'll use my friend Anthony Animalechi, for example. Anthony lives all the way in Dakar, Senegal. I had the pleasure of visiting him 2 weeks ago in Africa. Anthony launched his own nonprofit to fly about 8 to 10 students yearly to different parts of the world so they can have cultural experiences. How did Anthony do this, all right? What he did was he realized, hey, I'm pretty good at math. There are people that might need help. Why don't I tutor them on the side in addition to my full-time job, raise funds as a tutor to invest in my own organization, all right? In order for me to make my comic book happen, all right, I took a job with the Zora Festival, which is in Eatonville, historic Eatonville, which is near Orlando. I've never done festival public relations at all. They did not need to know that, though, all right? There is a quote that says, fake it until you make it. That is what Google is for. I've never done festival PR. I've done public relations before. I've won awards doing public relations, and I trust my skill sets.
I implore you all to do the same thing. If you have a side hustle or you are good at something, maybe you are good at braiding hair, all right? Maybe you're good with crunching numbers, all right? Maybe you good at babysitting. Do what it takes to raise the funds so you can invest in your own product, all right? People will quit on you. You cannot quit on yourself. There should be no one that believes in yourself more than yourself. So if you have the know-how, and I'm pretty sure that each of us in this room do, utilize your skill sets to invest in your products so you can keep those funds low so you won't have to hire someone else, all right? Next slide, please. Oh, the villain of our story, gloom. Don't be a villain. Utilize social media to your advantage. So in hiring the letterer and in hiring the colorist for my comic book, because I didn't know where to start, I hopped on social media and literally did hashtag colorists, hashtag letterers, looking to release a comic book in 2023. Who out there can help me, all right? There was an individual that lived all the way in Argentina. He is a colorist. He saw my tweet and was like, Jaylen, I can be of assistance to you. I scanned every single page, sent it to him. He came back a month later, everything was colored, all right? Conversely, I met a gentleman that lives in California, and these, by the way, these are individuals that I have not met in person. This is just a relationship that I built in social media. I met a gentleman that lives in California and told him that I needed a letterer and a colorist. He was able to step in as well. I do believe in giving credit to individuals, so if you saw on the cover to my comic book, it's not just my name listed. My name is listed as the writer and the illustrator, but I also gave credit to the individuals that stepped in to color my comic book and stepped in to letter my comic book as well, all right? So utilizing social media to your advantage. But you don't just have to utilize social media when it comes to finding individuals to help you with your product. You can also create business pages on Instagram, which I'm sure all of you know. You can do, Twitter chats, follow-alongs. You can launch groups. You can encourage your other friends who might also be like-minded individuals who also may be influencers or creatives to partner with you on creating social media content as well, and then doing shared content to get the word out about it. So social media is definitely your friend. Specifically, social media allows people to connect with like-minded individuals and build support networks regardless of geographical locations. Social media also serves as a valuable tool for businesses to reach wider audiences and for individuals to express themselves and engage in civic participation, all right? So we've got our strategy, right? We know that we need to go after special observances. We know we're not guessing. We know we're putting together specific strategies and tactics. We know that we are tailoring them to our target audience. We know that if it's younger individuals, we are going after podcasters. We know that if it's older individuals, we are going after newspapers. We know that newspaper reporters need to be pitched on a regular basis because they're producing content every day. What do we also know? We know if it's a magazine, we need to get them their stuff early, in advance. That same rule applies to podcasters. We also know that we're having an event. In order for a reporter to cover it, we are pitching the reporter specifically. We know that we're trying to go in studio. We are pitching the producer. Now, most of this information can be found online. But what I have found, and I mean this respectfully, is that for whatever reason, some individuals, notice I said the word some individuals are afraid of making phone calls. We rely on getting the information from the website. But what happens if that information is not listed on the website? What happens if that person does not respond to your email? We've gotten so comfortable in just emailing and not having that specific form of communication to where we have to hear someone's voice. But don't be afraid of making a phone call. In order for me to get my comic book out and for me to get on the shelves of some of the local bookstores in Orlando, which is where I currently reside, I had to call some of those bookstores. So really sometimes some of these things boil down to being a hustler. So if you develop that strategy, all right, and implement that strategy, I can almost guarantee that not only will it be effective, fruitful, but it will be downright super. Having said that, I'm available for any questions. I am also on social media at the Superfly Nerd. If you follow me, I promise you I'll follow you back. If you don't have the chance to ask me any questions today, if you shoot me a DM, I will always respond. But are there any questions for me at this time? Go ahead. So I am old school, all right? It was all hand-drawn, Yeah, I took a pencil and paper, illustrated it, went to Office Depot, scanned it, sent it off, and then it was colored digitally. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Yes. You'd be surprised, all right? So, most of these publications and these magazines, they are looking for reporters, or not reporters, they're looking for public relations professionals or organizations to pitch them because they're looking for content, all right? So if it's a magazine, they may have the stories already in mind, but that doesn't mean that they have the individuals in mind that they want to interview. So they're counting on you to reach out to them or tell them something that they may not necessarily know about. For example, I do the public relations for the National Medical Association. It is the oldest organization in the United States representing black healthcare professionals. So they are constantly looking for stories to get their, get what it is that they're working on out into the public. So my job in doing public relations for this particular organization is I'm contacting publications such as USA Today or Healthline or what have you to let them know that, oh, this qualified doctor or this specialist can speak on this specific topic. I saw that you may be reporting on this or writing about this month. Could I have this individual, this subject matter expert, or this thought leader featured in your article? And that tends to work. Yes. Wait. Yes. That is a good question. If memory serves me correctly, I think I was straightforward. I think I led with Black History Month, Black author, or Black comic book debuts during Black History Month, and that worked. Yeah, so straight to the point. Also, to piggyback on what I just said, in doing your pitch, you're not going to want to write something that is very long. So usually it's like a who, what, when, where, how, no more than 5 sentences. Do not bury your lead. Get straight to the point because as I indicated earlier, reporters receive a lot of emails every single day. Yes.
Oh yes. So I had a very specific.
He was going. I'm so sorry. You couldn't see him. You couldn't see him. Yep. Go ahead. And then I'll get to you in a second.
No problem.
How do you kind of maybe want to grow your success or maybe keep that momentum of like the initial release? Is there like ways to kind of like release another one or do different events, or do you kind of just hope to let it grow on its own, or how do you kind of?
So that's a very good question. So here's the conundrum that I had, all right? All of the photos that I showed you when I was featured on those different news outlets and in those magazines and newspapers, all of that took place during February 2023, which is when my comic book was released, all right? Now, with God's help, I was able to sell out of every single comic book within the span of a year. But the issue then becomes, how do I stay relevant, all right? Which is what I believe is what you were asking. It's latching on to special observances. So, for example, there is a National Superhero Day. I'm now reaching out to reporters again to say, hey, National Superhero Day, this is how my comic book is relevant. Or if I'm speaking at a school to students and I'm giving them a motivational presentation and I'm telling them you can be your own superhero, that then lends itself to being either a blog on my website or that blog can be turned into a pitch in which I can reach out to reporters. So it's all about staying relevant until the next issue comes out. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, sir.
I think I have a 2-part type of question.
Okay.
The first part is, so do you ever hit that generational roadblock or kind of like the red tape where you're hit with the new generation and then, of course, the old school generation in regards to pitching and funding for certain things? So the second part to my question would be is do you have a bias as far as how do you connect with them? Whereas, with the rapid elevation of technology, is ever changing, and then the older generation are still sticking with the usual ways that they would want to receive because they're the main ones who are actually cutting the checks.
Absolutely. Okay, so to answer your question, and correct me if I'm not answering it entirely because that was a 2-part question. So here's what I learned, all right? Like I said, I'm old school, all right? I'm 38, Black don't crack, I still look good. All right. But when I released my comic book, I did a tangible copy. All right. So I like to have it in my hands and flip through the pages. Now that worked for some individuals. All right. But there were younger individuals that came to me and they were like, well, actually, Jaylen, I don't really do tangible copies. I'm all digital. So I had to learn how to, okay, all right, scan this, reformat it, and provide it as a digital option on my website, because there are some people that read from their tablet, all right? So that's one thing that I had to learn. In regards to me getting the word out about it and then having to tailor that message to different demographics, whether they be old or young, that really wasn't that hard. It wasn't hard in the sense of me getting the word out, but it was challenging in which podcasts are relevant, which ones have the most followings, which news outlets do older individuals read, because at the end of the day, it's not children that make decisions, it's their parents that make the decisions. So I'm going after parenting magazines or lifestyle magazines to prove why you should purchase it, all right? So I had to be strategic. Some people want to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. That's cool, but how does that grow your audience, and how does it get the word out about what it is that you're doing specifically? So I had to have that strategy in place to know who it is that I'm going after. Does that answer your question? All right, bet. And I think we have one more. We don't have time? All right, listen, y'all DM me, all right? And I will respond in my direct messages. Thank y'all so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Give him a hand.